Well, it's 20 or 25.
So I bet you would get your credit card statements in the mail though.
That other one, they might be a list of changing the date. Someone asked them to change that date. Good morning, everyone. Glad to have you for our August the 18th Chatham Area Transit Authority meeting. And nice to have all the people over there in the audience and our staff people and, of course, our great executive director. And now I'll ask for the roll call.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Chairman McCacken.
Here.
Dr. Thomas.
Here.
Mr. Broker.
Here.
Mr. Dawson.
Here.
Mr. French.
Here.
Mr. Holmes.
Here.
Mr. Mingdall.
Here.
Ms. Osborne.
Here.
Ms. Stone.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, next we need a motion on the floor for the approval of the minutes of the July 14th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of that date? I need a motion.
Second.
Have a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next, the minutes were approved and action items. Chad?
There are no action items this month, Mr. Chairman. As a follow-up to our committee meetings, we delayed some action items on some potential RFPs, particularly in the area of lobbying. We will be conducting on-site interviews with the lobbyists in light of what's going on at the federal level with the federal funding. So that RFP, award of the RFP is being postponed until next month.
Well, let's hopefully that things will go in more positive direction.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, now we have on item 4, Airport Express update. Chad?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 2 presentations today. The first one is going to be given by Shalonda Roundtree. As a follow-up to last month's Board of Directors meeting, the board had asked us to look at what we were doing in terms of the 100X, in terms of improving the ridership on that. And so we have a presentation by Ms. Roundtree.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Certainly while we want to improve ridership in all of our routes, Mr. French had brought to our attention that 100X, there are some things that we can do to improve ridership. So we certainly value all the comments that we receive from all of our board members as is a collective effort to improving ridership on all of our routes. Mr. French, he also brought to our attention that our kiosk that we have, our existing kiosk, was facing the departures. So we did have that change. That was pretty easy to have that change so that it is facing arrival passengers. So we hope that that will certainly catch some of the people who are arriving to our airport. We also have rack cards, new rack cards that are in there. So we really hope that people would see that when they're coming in. I mean, we're going to kind of monitor that. If there's any other opportunities that we can do to promote the Airport Express by a kiosk or
Well, I was going to let you finish your sentence.
okay, we will do that, but yes.
Is there any place we could put it near the baggage pickup or closer to where the rent-a-car places are so that when people are looking for transportation assistance that they would, I mean,
I think
to
that's
me,
part of your presentation.
Yes,
okay.
yes, Ms. So we, Dr. Reese and I also, we did visit the airport last week, and we are looking at some other advertising opportunities for that, including baggage claim. We think that that is definitely a great opportunity to reach a lot of the customers, so we are looking at that.
because I would think that if someone is waiting to get a cab and they're waiting on their luggage and they see the opportunity to use transit,
Yes.
that would be the time, you know, that it might important for them to realize that they have that option.
Right, we know that just based on some of the research, that is kind of prime advertising real estate where, you know, we have to just kind of see if it's available at this time. I know the last time that I checked, it was no availability, but we're kind of on a waiting list. As soon as there's an opportunity for us to advertise on baggage claim, we certainly will. Route 100X service plan. This is just kind of an overview of where we are today and where we're looking for in October, some of the changes that we're planning to make. Today it's a 30-minute one-way trip, costs $5. In October, one of our changes that we hope to increase ridership is adding an inbound, outbound stop on Airways Boulevard. And the goal of this is to kind of target the customers along Airways Avenue, hotel guests, employees, and possibly pool area employees. By having the two stops there, you know, we're going to do kind of an aggressive marketing and outreach campaign where we just do some legwork, walk out there, talk to some of the other hotels and establishments to see if they're interested or they can provide transportation to their employees to service those areas. So we are looking at other avenues to do that.
What about the hotels downtown as well? I mean, I realize you're not going to get the ones coming in town, but when they're getting ready to leave, like the concierge stand, that when people ask for assistance to get to the airport, that we might have some brochures in some of the local hotels down here?
Yes, Ms. We went around to all of the downtown area hotels, and we provided rat cards, as well as we talked to the concierge. Kind of the goal of the downtown area, our focus is that once they arrive downtown via Airport Express, we're hoping that they support the DOT because it does circulate to a lot of the area hotels. So we are just getting the word out. We've had a lot of hotels contact us. They're also marketing and informing the customers of this service. So we are just hoping to continue that.
Well, I'm also thinking of the ones that didn't catch it coming in,
Right.
but are getting ready to leave and are looking for options.
So what we're looking at for October is that we're looking at modifying the route, and I don't know if that's the downtown modifications part of it.
Yes, we do not have the downtown modifications. We're still looking at that to just determine if we can keep the same amount of time.
So we're looking at modifying the routes downtown as opposed to just coming to the transit center, serving your major hotel stops downtown for both drop off and pick up on the way back to the airport. So that's one of the things that we're looking at for October.
And what's good about that too, Chad, as you know, that many of the buses that you catch, they do go to the hotels in a number of cities, you know, especially those that have, you know, high occupancy, that they do that in some of the other cities. So, thank you.
I might want to second, but I think that's really important, because if you're in here with a suitcase or several suitcases, you don't want to come to the transit center
And transfer it to
and then you have to figure out how to get to your hotel.
There you go. Fantastic.
Okay.
One of the things that we want to, you know, that we're going to stress and market to those passengers, prospective riders for hotel guests and employees, is that as long as they purchase a weekly pass or monthly pass, it is affordable because they will have an average rate of $1.50 as opposed to some of our visitors who have to pay the $5. So that's just to make sure and kind of consider them that, you know, that they may need their regular customers, that we have an affordable rate for them. So we will certainly promote the weekly pass and the monthly pass options to make it more affordable for those employees.
And is that the same rate for regular weekly and monthly passes?
Yes, it will be. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And this is just kind of an aerial view. In March, our outreach manager, Valerie Ragland, went out and kind of surveyed a lot of the hotels in the area. And as you see, there are several hotels in the area that we were not servicing. Before, we did have shelters along Airways Boulevard, so that's one of the things that we are planning to do in October. We will have those shelters again to service on the inbound and outbound. And just kind of in her research, she just went out and talked to a lot of the managers as well as the employees, and the results were very favorable. They said that they would ride, you know, if we did service the area, because right now by just stopping at the airport, they would have to get transportation or they would have to take the free. So we think that we're missing a lot of the customers this way, as well as those customers who are coming in, business customers, for instance, that may be staying at the area airport hotels. We want them to have a way by using the Airport Express to come downtown to enjoy the scenes and the sights of downtown Savannah. So we hope that this will help that.
Another comment, I think this is a great idea, but you've got to be careful to stay express.
Yes.
Because if you start to make too many stops and it gets to be too long, then you're going to lose the vacation
Yes,
traveler.
sir. That's one of the things that we're looking at.
So
But we
you
know
gotta-
that by having the inbound and outbound along Airways Boulevard, we're still able to keep the 30 minutes. And that's why we're still just trying to make sure that, if we are to service the hotels downtown, that we will, still be able to manage or, retain the Airport Express image. Because we want to make sure that, it's quick. That's what we're promoting. So we are looking at that, just kind of with timing, things like that.
Because I think the hotels downtown are the key.
Yes.
As far as the tourist goes.
Yes, sir.
So the other thing, just to build on that, and I wouldn't have thought of this, but there will probably people staying at those hotels who may want to be visiting downtown and
Yes.
can't necessarily afford to stay downtown.
Right.
And if they have easy access to and from downtown and don't have to think about parking, that may be, sort of an untapped or perhaps
Yes, sir.
uncontemplated opportunity.
Yes, and we're hoping that will, if we market to them and let them know that we do have the stop service, that they would do that. So absolutely, Mr. Broker.
That would make a tremendous difference, believe
Yes.
it or not, because like he said, especially like for parking for those who do not want to, to ride
Yes.
downtown or whatever, that certainly will be helpful in a lot of ways. So that would be a key thing to really key in on.
Okay.
Very good.
Certainly our main goal is to increase ridership, and some of the strategies is just promoting the Airport Express. We will develop a 100X promotion campaign so that we can let people know of the added stops along Airways Boulevard so that they will be aware. We're just going to work with, I'll work with our communications manager, our communications specialist always, in addition to our outreach manager, just so that we can get out and let people know that this service exists, those who may not know. Ongoing advertising 100X. We are going to create business partnerships to reach potential new users. We think that, even some of the people who are in Pooler, if we add those stops, that they may just come to those stops and service that as opposed to driving. So we're going to make sure that we let other businesses in the area know. We're also adding prepaid fares by doing a direct mail campaign. One of the things that we've done is we have cards going out to conventions and meeting contacts by working with the Chamber and Visit Savannah on that. And we think that way, those customers who have been using alternative forms of transportation would be aware that they can purchase the fares in advance so that we can certainly reach some of them. We're looking at a bus route, just kind of more vehicle branding so that people would see it and be aware that it's visible. So those are residents of Savannah, once they see the 100X and may have not ever heard of it, that they would know. Interior, exterior ads, paid search, against the Visit Savannah sales script. We're working with Visit Savannah and the Chamber in promoting a sales script that we have so that when people are calling in, they'll know what to say to them and be able to also promote our Airport Express. In addition to expand and enhance social media to reach customers.
Right, that's right. Sassy.
It is just for instance, if you're going to search engine optimization, so it is if you're reaching Expedia or anything like that, then we'll have like a banner ad so that you can reach those customers. So we're thinking that those, like maybe advertising on Delta, US Airways, some of the travel, Expedia, that once the people search for travel, the ads will come on the side. Yes.
Yes, those bothersome ads that come on the side.
On exterior ads again, name a couple of more of those on that exterior ads in which places?
For exterior ads, we're thinking of like putting them on the side of the bus, so that people would be aware of when they see our regular fixed route buses traveling through Savannah, that they will see that we are advertising the 100X. So that's just another avenue that we can to promote it.
Oh, let me ask this question now. Is it permissible, like some of the places do, like if it's a taxi driver or something, they hold up signs and anything, can we do that express bus sign with somebody out there with a sign stating that?
That's what we're talking about, right?
No, I'm not talking about
No,
inside. I'm talking about on the outside.
A real person out there waving the sign, get that.
When the people come out the door, for transportation, to do it right there. Okay.
Shalonda, you don't have to do that.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
That'd be a good job.
Some other ways
Maybe
that
I
we
can
are.
apply for that.
Y'all have to go scan with
Pete,
Clyde, you know.
all you gotta do is welcome to Savannah, let me get you a ride.
Yes.
We'll look into that, Chairman.
We'll do that.
Yes. Here are some other ways that we are promoting our 100X. Obviously, we have the airport kiosks. We have new 100X rec cars. We have created custom tickets so that we can use to pre-mail to those conventions and meetings that are coming into customers. And one of the customers that we're certainly hoping is the marathon. We have been in contact with them, and we think that's a great opportunity to kind of get some of those customers who are coming in. And we're just starting ahead of time to make them aware of the service so that they can possibly use the service. We hope that they would.
Right.
We have cat bike advertisements on our cat bike. On several of our cat bikes, we have what you see on the side, on the right side, the $5 one way. And that's just so that people who are downtown, if they're looking at a cat bike and it goes by, that they'll be aware of it also.
Airport counter space.
Yes, airport counter space. Dr. Reese and I have been in conversation with some executives at the airport, and we are looking at that as a possible opportunity. We're just kind of waiting back, to let them know the availability of the space right now, but we think that that may be also an opportunity if we have someone there to entertain questions, possibly sell tickets, and just get the word out. So we are also considering that as an option to market.
Could we sell tickets at some of the hotels downtown?
We can certainly look into that.
I mean, if someone knows they can buy their ticket right there and get on the bus and go to the airport, that might be a selling point.
Okay. Yeah, we know that we sell some of our tickets to hotels for them to sell to their employees, but we have not looked into that in a sense, so we will certainly check with some of the hotels.
I mean, if I
in the
knew
area.
that I'm getting ready to leave and I didn't think about this, and there's a less expensive alternative and I can buy the ticket right there, then that's pretty easy.
Okay.
May I
A lot of times they'll
piggyback
put it right
question?
on your hotel bill.
Yes.
You don't have to
Okay.
pay separately for it.
And I piggyback on that. If they hadn't done that, can't they get on the bus and pay?
Yes, they can. Yes.
Right, but it's just, to me, once somebody knows that this is more of an opportunity to advertise us, and they don't have to worry about correct change, it's done, just get on the bus and go.
Certainly look into that and and we just wanted to kind of talk about some of the challenges also. As we are aware, in Savannah there's a car culture. People are attached to cars, so we just want to be just aware that while we are making some changes, and we hope that there will be some significant improvement in the ridership, we have to be wary of these challenges. There are low gasoline prices. We're competing with taxis, economical airport parking, limited downtown parking, limited flights. Dr. Reese and I, we kind of observed last week some of the flights that were coming in, the passengers. So that's just something to consider. Savannah is a smaller airport, but we certainly want to get as many passengers that are coming in to use our service if they're coming downtown. But we are just kind of observing that, aware of those challenges. And then obviously the private services. We're competing with Uber, our new Uber service, the K Shuttle, and also Old Town Trolley Tours, who provides, for meetings and conventions, they provide travel downtown. So we just have to be really creative and aggressive in our marketing and promotion, just to make people aware of our service.
This Uber thing now that the city has gone along to, there's been some that have been some of the people that provide services and all, but the Uber, in case people don't know that, that's a private citizen that has an automobile can go, they sign up with Uber and then they go, and these aren't experienced drivers and all of those kind of situations. So if it's a Uber thing, I want to make sure that what we do, that we will, monitor that, because you get people out there, with that situation.
Yes.
And it's not good, if we have people that aren't dressed properly, if we have people in there that are, not good, safe drivers, and those, we don't know much about that.
Right. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, but I don't know what the K shuttle is.
The K shuttle, they're housed at the airport. It's just a transportation service. They take people to Hilton Head and we see them downtown.
I got you.
Are these the large raised roof type, really tall, green?
Yes, you'll see the K shuttle right on the side of it.
Oh, okay.
You're familiar with.
Do you know what they charge? to
I'm
get
not sure,
downtown?
Mr. Broker, what they charge. But we know, and that's one of the reasons why Dr. Reese had the idea of, the counter service, because they have 2 locations at the airport. So we want to make sure that we're also reaching those customers and having the same
They
opportunity.
have 2 counter locations, and they're advertising in the middle of every baggage claim. So there's a big, and most of their service goes to Hilton Gate.
Yes.
Is this a corporate deal, a large nationwide?
I don't know if it's nationwide. I think it's more localized
Yeah,
than anything
that's-
else.
Very good. Any questions?
Comment, I think you've done a great job. I'm
Yeah.
glad you're really looking into this and trying to increase ridership.
Shalana,
Yeah.
you go, girl.
Ditto.
I mean, there have been some additional, suggestions and all, but, I mean, we can see that a lot of time and effort has been placed in this, and some things maybe the board didn't think about it, but you and your other people, staff people and all, have done a good job in that area.
Yes.
We have come a long way.
What are your positions?
Yes, we have.
I am Marketing and Business Development Manager.
And you come up under the service committee?
Yes, service, yeah, CDO.
System development.
System
System
development.
development? They're gonna give her a raise next year?
Yeah.
We have come a long, long way.
Any other questions?
Wonderful.
Okay, we'll go on now to the transit investment, transit-oriented development. Chad?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, Mr. French will be giving this presentation on transit investment and transit-oriented development as a follow-up to the after board support and board member seminar.
Okay, thank you, Chad. Actually, Helen and I are going to give the presentation sort of jointly. So I'm going to give the beginning of the presentation, which talks about what we saw and what we did when we were in Denver. And then Helen is going to sort of deal with the takeaways and how it relates to Chatham County and various local entities and community pieces that we have working together. So we were fortunate enough that Chad sent us to this conference, which is strictly for board members. There's no transit people there. It's only for board members. And typically they talk about things like the CEO performance and evaluations and board more oversight. But in this case, they spent an entire day talking about transit-oriented developments in RTD, which is the Denver Regional Transit District. And it was a fascinating seminar we went to, and after we spent 4 hours listening to the talk, they took us out into the system. They took us through some of these projects we were developing. So we came back and we asked Chad, can we talk to you and tell you what we found out? And Chad let us talk to the System Development Committee last week, and now we're happy that we're here talking to the full board. So this could also be called Where Transit Goes, the Community Grows, which is the APTA marketing slogan, which I've always thought was pretty catchy, but I always related it to if you have a nice system and it's efficient and it works, you'll have good ridership, you'll have people coming into the community, and it gets everybody around to work, to school, where they need to go. I miss the dots that connects it to the TODS. And we're in TODS too, and we talked a couple of months ago about the trolley garage and the parking garage. This is exactly what we're talking about. And I had missed somehow connecting all of the dots to what transportation can do to actually aid development. So when we started our presentations from listening to the RTD people, the first thing that we have to talk about is Denver, because Denver is not Savannah. And I think after we got done with these presentations, Helen and I looked at each other and said, okay, we're not in Savannah anymore.
That's right.
But there are a lot of takeaways from the presentation we got. And the first one is that Denver is a huge, huge metropolitan district. It's bigger than Chatham County. Geographically, it goes about 25 miles east of the airport, 30 miles west of the mountains, 40 miles north to Boulder, and then south it just sort of merges with Colorado Springs. So it's just really big. It's really crowded. Denver's expensive. They told us that apartments in Denver for one room is $1,500. It costs $45 a day to park a car, and it's just full up. So all the development is going on outside the city, going out into this reaching area. But then where it got interesting is that they don't think of themselves as Aurora or Lakewood or all the other communities around here. So they don't think of themselves as Poole or Port Wentworth. They think of themselves as a region. And in fact, they have a caucus of 33 mayors for all these different regions, and they meet on a regular basis where they talk about things so that they are all pulling on the same oar. And one of the things they're really united on is public transportation. And unlike Savannah, they have got the message across that public transportation helps the community grow, and they voted to support it. And there's a very pro-public transportation vibe when you go out to Denver. Probably started when they couldn't get to work in the cars because they all sat in the freeways, but they do believe in public transportation, and they're willing to fund it. And the first thing we heard when we started listening to this presentation was from the board chairman of the RTD. And his very first comment really hit home to us as we sat there, because as he said to us, you've got to convince everybody in the region, not just the users of transportation, is a good thing. And until you get to that point, you can't accomplish what you need to accomplish. And that really, was like, okay, that summed that one up. And they got the message across to this regional area of 33 member caucuses. And in 2004, they all got together and they voted a long-term transit plan, which they call Fast Track. And they agreed to fund it through basically the T-SPLOS and other tax-related methods. And since then, they've added 31 parking rides. These are not just little 5 to 10 cars. These are parking garages that have 1,000 spots each. And they've opened up 21,000 parking places around the rail and bus stations. They've added 5 light rail rides. And they're now working on a direct bus route between Denver and Boulder, which is about 40 miles up the road. And what's also interesting is the chairman says you can't stop growth, you can only plan for it. So they're very forward-thinking of what they're doing in Denver. And I'm not going to spend any time on this slide. I just put it in for Chad, so he can see where they're getting their funding from. Chad is a funding guy. But what's interesting to note is that almost 28% of their money comes from their T-SPLOS or their sales tax. And about 38% of it, I think, comes from federal and local match. And the rest of the time, they'll go out and they'll get loans. They'll issue bonds. They're not afraid to take on debt to do these projects. So then we'll get into the specifics of what they're doing. So we go back to the transit-orientated development, or where transit goes, the community grows. So we're back now to connecting the dots that I at least missed. So what RTD is doing is they're leveraging their transit system against private development along their transit routes. So they're teaming up with different partners, different developers, and they're going out to a park and ride and they're developing this property. They're doing it with HUD grants, they're doing it with DOT funds, and they're just coming up with a real detailed plan of what they want to do. And then they'll develop little mini cities around these parking rides, around these train stations. And then the speed would set. Because now that they've got more housing along the route, now they have more ridership. And then they do it again, and they do it again, and they do it again. And the ridership increases, and then they get parking fees, and they get a lot of other fees coming into the corporation.
Mr. President, could you point out also that around those, they're providing affordable housing using income tax credits?
I'm gonna tell you more than just that.
Good.
Around
Good.
around the parking lots where they're doing the developments, they're doing mixed use, which means it's houses, restaurants,
Condos.
businesses, and condos and apartments. And the apartments and condos are mixed income.
Good.
So they're not just doing low income housing, they're doing mixed income housing. So they're trying to get a better mix of these developments.
Makes sense.
And then as Mary says, yes, then there are low income housing credits and tax credits that are running along with all these things. So they've got a pretty good plan of what they're trying to develop. They're not just opening up an auction, getting a developer coming in and say, this is what I want to do. They're telling the developer, this is what we want you to do. And they're very clear that they're keeping control of the development of all of their sites.
That's great.
So I sense, Chad, that they're buying the land and they're letting the developers develop it per their request. And when I did this presentation, I sent it to Helen to check, and the first thing she sent back to me was that, Howard, you forgot to say they did all of this in the beginning of the recession because they believe so much in public transportation and these development projects. So as I said earlier, and they're doing this in just a variety of ways. HUD apparently has specific programs in place to fund these projects when you're close to a transit area. So they're combining them with the new starts and the DOT and the project loans from TIPTA and the money they get from private developers to put these projects together. There was a long presentation on where you could get these funds. And I couldn't write fast enough to write them all down. We had a gentleman there, somebody from DOT. So Beverly is trying to find these meeting notes from us to run back to find out where they really got the funding. And then they're getting revenue from multiple sources. They're getting revenue from their increased ridership. They're getting revenue from parking garages. They're getting revenue from ground leases from the developers. So it's a really profitable way for the system to grow. But the other side of it is it's a really profitable way for the community to grow. Because wherever they're doing these things, suddenly there's townhouses, there's restaurants showing up in somebody's backyard. So all the new communities are expanding their tax bases, they're expanding their jobs. And these are all going in places which are in need of development. Either there's nothing there but field, or it's a derelict commercial piece of property which they're knocking down and rebuilding it. So it's become a win-win for both the community, the people, and the transit system, and it continues to feed on each other. So they recommend for every dollar that you spend, you're going to get $4 back in development. So after listening to all this, you go, well, this is pretty neat. Good presentation, guys. Then they took us out onto the system to show some of it. And here, Helen and I separated. We did 2 different tours, and we're going to sort of focus on the one I did because it's more about bus lines, which I think is more applicable to us.
Rail.
Helen was on the rail side. I don't think we'll have a rail system anytime in the near future. So what we did, and this is where it really came home to me, is we took a bus rapid transit tour between the Denver station and Boulder, Colorado. US 36. And so what this would mean for us is we would come from this building, we might go to Statesboro on I-16. What they've done is they've done a direct service with just 2 stops between here and Statesboro. One could be like stopping in Bloomingdale. And The bus itself is a direct bus, no stops once you leave the station except for these 2 parking rides. It has a dedicated bus lane. So all of a sudden now the 1 hour time to go between Boulder and the Denver station is dropped to about 30 minutes. The only people that can ride in the bus lane is the person that has the little transponder for your toll lane. And Denver collects all the tolls from the responders. So they've increased the ridership because they're getting there quickly and they're collecting fees from the cars that want to have access to the bus lane. But the interesting part was, in Bloomfield Park, they developed a mini city of 900 condos, restaurants, parking garages, banks, climbing walls, swimming pools. I mean, this is a real little city that popped up in the middle of nowhere. And they introduced us to the mayor, who just couldn't stop babbling about how great this was for his city. Because now I've got 900 new condos and restaurants, and he was just so excited. We couldn't get away from it. He kept following us down. It's just a wonderful, wonderful thing, wonderful thing. And when we ask him, how many cars do your citizens park in your parking garage, he says very few, because nobody has more than 1 car, and most of the people don't have any cars. They're completely dependent on Denver to get them around. So after we left the middle of the cornfield, really amazed, we drove to a section of Denver, which could be like the Waters Avenue corridor, where it was a derelict, nasty piece of real estate. They knocked everything down, and they're developing what they call the Alameda Station, where they're building 275, again, more mixed-use condos. Again, with all the amenities you could possibly want, decks and green space and fire pits and places to socialize. Again, no cars. Everybody's dependent on the public transportation. What's interesting about all these places is that they're all pre-sold. They're selling at prices that are so good compared to the real estate market. They've got a waiting list to get in before they even open the first building. So a couple pictures being worth 1,000 words. The picture on the left is the Alameda Station project. So this shows you the condos they're building, 275 units in an old derelict warehousing district, which was going to be, they claim they're going to be open in 2 weeks. I don't see how they're going to make it, but that's what they said. And the place on the right is the Bloomfield parking ride. So when you think of a parking ride, that is the parking ride in the little city that they built next to the parking ride. And then the next page shows you how close these developments are to the parking ride. The picture on the left is actually a light rail station. I took that from the balcony of one of the units of the building at Alameda Station. So when we say they're at the parking ride, we mean they're at the parking ride platform. And then Curtis, the next piece is the piece de resistance of their project, which is the Union Station, which was a dilapidated building, unlike Savannah, where we knocked our station down.
Which was a crime.
Which was a crime.
Well, we still got a piece of it.
We still have one.
They,
Piece of it.
Really?
RTD bought the station. They bought the piece of property and all the property around it, and they redeveloped it. And they've now turned it into their transit center. So all of their buses, all of their light rail, everything comes through here.
Oh, fantastic.
When they restored it, they restored the Crawford Hotel, and they also get a piece of all the hotel revenue. So everything that they're doing is involving community growth and generating revenue for RTD.
Surprised you came home.
Well, I tried to. I couldn't afford to live there was my problem. So it closer to home, as Helen and I were at the conference, we met the people at Martin, we talked to them, and they're doing exactly the same thing. They're doing a lot of these TODs all around their system to increase the ridership, to improve the communities, to generate revenue through different revenue sources. So I came back quite impressed. As you can tell, I bought the Kool-Aid. I'm all in. I think we need to up our game in this, and I'd like now to let Helen continue everything that I probably forgot, which is probably a lot.
No, it's not. I think you were very thorough. As Howard mentioned, I mean, the thing that impressed me was this was a true partnership with all of these communities. I mean, it was seamless. They did not see Denver as a pocket or Boulder as a pocket. They saw themselves as a group. And the fact that they are meeting on a constant basis was imperative. They recognized the fact that people wanted to get different places in the Denver area, and this was the most economical way to do it. And again, $4 on every $1 you spend is a damn good return on your investment. Charles Sisk, who gave the presentation the first morning, he is willing to come here. For some reason, he sort of took a shine to the two of us, and we spent a lot of time talking to him on how they made this happen. And again, they did this at a very risky time. They did this on the onset of the recession, but they invested in their infrastructure knowing that development would follow. And that's the thing, even on the light rail, which I know we're not going to do, again, these park and rides made it possible for people that couldn't afford to pay the exorbitant prices to live in the downtown Denver area. They could live 15 minutes out or 10 minutes out via transit and get into where they needed to be. The other thing, they had a panel of young people talking, and it did amaze me. They are not wed to their cars like we are. As a matter of fact, they see public transportation as an opportunity for them to keep working on their iPads or computers or cell phones, whatever they're doing. I mean, it was kind of amazing that that's what they saw as the most important thing is their flexibility for work time. And there was absolutely no stigma whatsoever to using public transportation. Everybody did. And like Howard said, in fact, the residential areas were based around the availability of transportation. So that was kind of amazing to me. We were talking, and we do feel that there's some opportunities here to start building on. Our trolley station and our parking garage could be a step into some transit-oriented development. And we do need to kind of work on our partnerships and relationships with, and I think this, on the onset of looking to go into West Chatham, maybe a monthly meeting with the mayors or something that we can get our message out and maybe share this presentation, or when Charles comes to Savannah, have them come, have them listen to what a forward-thinking community can do, because again, you can't stop growth and development, but you can plan for it to where it's going to benefit your community and not be a liability on your community as far as traffic congestion and parking and those kind of things. The other thing that I'm still not convinced, and I know Howard humors me, we have a piece of our old train station, the visitor center. When Marta was talking about making sure that they had train light rail from Atlanta to Macon, you know, one day I would love to see the light rail go from Savannah to Macon and ultimately to Atlanta. Some of the existing infrastructure is still there, and if you could have seen the before pictures of their Union Station, anything can be done. And the fact that, y'all, they put a hotel right on top of it. You walk into the lobby of this train station, and it's like a glorified living room. There's comfortable furniture, there are little shops around, and there's a hotel. And it's right in the middle of Denver. So there are a lot of opportunities to be learned from this, and I would like to see us do something with the information that we brought home, to better educate this community of what we're missing by not expanding our transit system and thinking more regionally. And like Howard said, start with rail to, can't get the rail out of my head. Bus systems to Statesboro and stopping in Bloomingdale and maybe one or two other stops along the way. I mean, I think of all the college students at Georgia Southern that would love to come in for the day to Savannah and shop and not have to worry about their parking. And people that do not have automobiles that might want to go to an event that might be in Statesboro, a football game, a basketball game. How nice would that be?
Wonderful.
So I think we need to start thinking more regionally, and do what we can to, I think the key is education. And we have not done a good job, and Chad, I'm really talking prior to your arrival, of educating this community of the benefits of public transportation. So.
Okay, and one of the things, this is great. I'll get with everybody in just a moment. This is terrific that the two of you all went there and brought all this information, because it's really, really good and can help our area and development and all if we, do as much of these things as we can. What I really like about it too is that information that you brought about the funding sources, because not only bringing Charles Sis, but maybe one or two of those other cities, that how it has helped them and do an overall presentation with those people from Denver to show how successful it is. And right here where it says local matching funds, 2.3%. And we can look at all of this so it won't put a burden on any of the municipalities, no matter which one it is, because you can see things that we've never thought about. Not only we know about the federal grants, the New Stop and all of that, but the simple facts of the matter is we look at all of these together, bring that information out to all of the mayors, and see, when we have those people where it's been successful, and there's been 33 communities, I think that's what was in this presentation you had, Howard, and in that. So I'd like to see, especially getting with Howard and Helen on this, and our director and others on the board, so that we can put something together to do that. Because I think if these other cities see how it has really helped them and how Denver did this, that it could make a difference in their situation, where you're not adding some kind of tax burden on them, because this is absolutely fantastic, and glad that y'all did go and bring that information, because I think this alone would help getting the other municipalities coming together, showing that we want to help them, and how it's going to be very progressive for their area, in addition to, just helping getting people transportation. Go ahead.
I just want to commend you and Helen on a fantastic report. And the information you brought back, in your mind, not in my mind, will be very, very helpful to us. But in addition to thinking of inviting the mayors, I think you must seriously consider inviting the city managers along with the mayors, or even the finance people.
Oh, yeah.
We put together a list, and I'll be getting that out to the board members.
As well, I think your county
I think
chairpersons should
if
be
it could be
involved as
based
well.
around Charles's visit.
Yes, ma'am.
Head of the government, whoever.
Yeah, because
head
he's
of
the
government, so
expert
there
in
could
how
be
they
about
put
one
all this
segment.
together with the
That's
regional
not good.
transit.
I think we create, what you're just saying, create a great message about how successful it's been for their other smaller municipalities, how it doesn't put a burden on them,
Right.
you know, with all of us working together.
Well, it can
That,
increase
but you
growth
get
in
all of
small
those people
areas.
in there to listen in the beginning instead of separating it, and then you can get others to come on board that y'all saw. Now, hold it just a minute. Go ahead, Wayne.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, what is Mr.
Sisk.
What is his background?
He was a former mayor of one of the communities,
Yeah,
right?
he's a former mayor, he's a lawyer by trade, he's a managing partner of a law firm.
Yeah.
And he was, as Helen said, he was one of the mayors out towards Boulder.
Right.
So he's worked both ends of
And he
the,
likes Georgia football.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Go ahead, Wayne.
no, I had a follow-up on that. I mean, instead of focusing on the transit part, if we could focus on the development part, I'm not sure how many developers are aware of all the tax credits, you know, that they might have to be eligible for. And what I was thinking about, I didn't know whether this person was a developer who maybe started out saying I was a skeptic to begin with, but then I saw where I could make money in investing in this. So if we could maybe, as a part of bringing him down, have a session for developers, you know, and show them the benefit.
Yeah, actually, Wayne, I mean, a lot of the presentation that he did, we really shortened this thing dramatically because it took all morning. Dealt with development process. And at one point they had, I think there were 4 or 5 people from the development arena.
Right.
Came and they talked together. And one of them was a planning and zoning person from one of the communities. Somebody else was a non-profit developer. Then there was a profit developer, and there was a 4th guy that I can't remember exactly what he did. And they all shared their stories of working with RTD and how they got these projects off the ground, who contributed what to who did this, and how the funding worked, sort of an individual product and process basis. And that was too much for us to write down. It just got to be the point of, look, we give up. We're just going to take the highlights and get Beverly to give us the minutes.
But what I got out of this was, once they established this regional committee, that's when the ball started rolling. I mean, it wasn't done in little pockets. So to me, if this is something that this area is interested in, we need to form an RTD. Because unless you have the buy-in of everyone, you're going to have a fragmented system. And that's what impressed me is that they set out to accomplish this. And again, it's during some very difficult times, but they were able to get the whole area to buy in. And that to me was the key, because if you had little pieces of this system and it wasn't seamless, you couldn't accomplish what they've accomplished. And you wouldn't have the participation. So.
But that's a really good point, because what we didn't mention is that the first time Denver came out of the gate and tried to get this approved,
it didn't work.
Voted down in a really spectacular fashion. So then they regrouped and they started to get the message out. And this is good for all of us. The transit goes, the community grows. And since then, I think they told us they have these transit-related votes, and they've won 80% of the time. So once they've gotten this message out, which we obviously don't have out, because all of our regional partners are fighting it, they've been very successful in expanding the system.
So,
Wayne, go ahead and finish.
oh, thank you. So this RTD would go outside of maybe say the MPC, because the metropolitan statistical area of Savannah includes Effingham and Bryan. But you're saying something that would go out as far as Bullock County and State.
I might mention too that the Enabling Act does not restrict CAT to Chatham County. It says anywhere in the state of Georgia.
That's good.
But to me, a consensus would have to be built that this is the plan, this is what we want to accomplish before you can even start this. Because pieces of it aren't going to work, and like Howard said, they said clearly it failed in the beginning. So this has to be a buy-in of a regional area that, to me, Savannah would be the hub of where people in the underlying areas. And I mean, I've had people come to me and say, we would love to live outside of Savannah and have some land, gardening and whatever they wanna do, but coming in on I-16 is not pleasant. You know, what can we do to be able to afford to have little more than a house sitting on some dirt? We want some land. And even, I know I did the rail part, but it was tremendous how the community worked to make sure that rail got to their areas, and how those stops along the way just grew as a result of the rail.
Well, just one last thing, the development plan, the committee?
No, not for Denver. What they use a group of, Denver use a group of consultants. They use marketing, public relations firms to help revise their message, deliver their message, target their message. And they use urban planners to create a master plan of sorts. And when the master plan was created, the public relations agencies went out and took on a process of selling it.
So it's a full service
Yeah.
type group.
Okay. Priscilla?
Thank you. First of all, let me congratulate both of you for a job well done. I thought it was very thorough in your presentation this morning. I gained a lot of insight, and I truly feel that if we would take the information that we have received here this morning and move forward, what I get from this is that the first thing that needs to be done is that we have to make sure that the message is there. Secondly, we have to deal with the plan. And after we deal with the plan, then we form the partnerships and move forward. I think if we do that, we will be very successful. I thoroughly enjoyed the presentation and the information, and I hope that we will not just let this sit and not do anything, because sometimes, you know, we get information and we don't do anything. This is an opportunity for CAT now to, you know, to move forward and get some real things done, and hopefully while I'm still alive, because we have come a long, long way, and I'm very proud of the progress that we have made.
Well, what I'm going to do is set up a workshop for our board, a workshop, and then we can get into the things like about who we're going to invite, but main thing is on Charles Sisk to be here, and others in there, so we can start something locally with get other elected officials, those people on the west side, all of the 7 municipalities that are in the county, and of course the county is part of that, you know, with it. And James, you're next.
Thank you, sir, Mr. Chairman. You always look back this way last.
No, what happened, James, I saw you exactly when you put your hand up. I know you're teasing, because I went around and I saw you put your hand up.
I've already thanked Mr. French in person. Let me thank you, Ms. Stone, for this great presentation. Let me touch base on a couple of things here that I paid very good attention to. First of all, the word regional is a very hot word that's been on the radar in Savannah and Chatham County for the past 15, 20 years. Regional, regional, regional. Mr. French, that's what I heard in your presentation. Regional, regional. You emphasize that very strongly. So you have a word here that you can get up off a little minor word, but when you start selling regional, I think that's what you're talking about, Ms. Stone, connecting with the outer leaders in other areas.
You got the right word, regional.
Regional. Now, let me remind all of us, Savannah is not Denver. What I mean by that is, the leaders in Savannah is not like the leaders in Denver. You all been in Savannah all your years. I've been on this cat board for the past 12 years. We have tried to touch bases and sell many, many ideas to the leaders. and for some reason, it haven't taken off. We have rolled the shoulders, the ideas, and the leadership of our CEO, Chad. And I know he has taken all of this in, practically everything that you all have said, he probably on top of it, looked at it. But the question I would ask, one thing that you mentioned, the Federal New Start grant. You mentioned that if, in other words, you have the developers coming in and we tell them what to do. Did I hear you say that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, with federal grant, Mr. Reese.
Yes, sir.
There's some stipulations on federal grants. Would that hinder our growth for what the statement he just made just now?
No, sir. It will be how it happens. So what would have to happen is CAT would actually have to take on a development role. We would have to acquire the property. So once we acquire the property, and that's where we get into somewhat of a pickle at.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a tendency to acquire property with federal money.
Mm-hmm.
Once you acquire property with federal money, you then have to follow federal guidelines. Case in point, this facility. It's one price with local money.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than double that with federal money.
Mm-hmm.
Because regardless of what you negotiate with the property owner, the federal government doesn't negotiate. We have guidelines. You 3 appraisals, you take the middle appraisal or whatever the number is, and that's what you pay under the federal relocation guidelines. So once you use federal money to acquire the property, you move into one angle where you have to follow a host of federal guidelines. Transit systems that are doing TOD, what they're using local money, bond money, taking out a loan, transit infrastructure bank, so on and so forth. They are acquiring the property, they own the property, and then they use federal money as part of a joint public-private partnership with some developers. So if you look at the way the numbers break down, you'll see. So what you'll see in this situation is if you look at the numbers specifically, I don't know if it's still up there, but they're using private dollars in essence to match federal funds. And they're also bringing, so sales tax revenue from bonds, basically that is a form of what they would consider as SPLOS or something of the like. So they have a referendum, they get a certain amount of money from a SPLOS type program. There's a user's fee associated with it, as they refer as the pay-as-you-go capital. So they have a loan, they're transferring some of their formula funds to help pay off the capital loans and capital debts as they go forward. At the bottom, 8% public-private partnerships, and with municipalities that are smaller, but they're pooling all the money together. But the key is owning the land. So the term Bloomingdale has come up a couple times. The key to us doing that is buying 50, 75, 100 acres off the interstate in Bloomingdale, building so once we own that, we go back to the federal government and we say, we'd like to get a grant to build a park and ride location on this. And since we own the land, then we say to developers, well, we're looking to develop this and we'll enter into a public-private partnership, and we're looking for 2 hotels, we're looking for restaurants, condominiums, we're looking for daycare, we're looking for this, and they have to meet these design criteria, submit a bid.
Yeah, I follow you, and I'm glad I asked you that question because I know you know about that. But now, how do we get the stakeholders and the leaders to buy into this?
There it is.
Good question, okay.
The challenge.
Also,
Well, I mean, even with that, if you think back, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we left money on the table because we couldn't get a
because
partner.
we couldn't get a partner, I remember, okay?
I mean, we were talking about rail. We were in line for a rail system. We couldn't get a partner.
I'm not shooting this down now, French. I love this because it's a new direction in which we can take to go. I just been in Savannah all my years, and I know things like this is not really easy as you make it seem to be. And Chad, you know, we were trying to find a parking space when we built the new facility, or add on to it, on Gwinnett Street. You and I was going in, and we said, we need some more parking.
Yes, sir.
You remember?
Yes, sir.
And I said, there's a lot over there, we need to buy it. You said, we can't buy that thing.
I remember.
You remember that? Okay. I figured we could have purchased it. Now,
Well,
tell me why you said we couldn't
Because
purchase
we
that.
didn't have the local money. The only money we had access to was federal
But
money.
we couldn't buy it at that time.
Right. So what happens is, it's people who live there.
Right.
So if the board authorizes me to say, Chad, we want to acquire this property and we're not going to use
So
federal
you know what
money.
you should have said to me then?
What's that?
Authorize me to go buy it. But what you said, we can't do it.
Well, we didn't have the money.
Okay.
I can buy it next year though.
Good job, Mr. French. I'm on board.
Okay, let me go into something so everybody will know this, and probably a number of you already know this. We had, in the state of Georgia, they've got regional commissions. There's about, it's broken down into regions that generally the governor's office has done, and right now, Governor Perdue changed a little bit about how the regional commissions was when he put in changing the name of them. But now, Chatham County and 12 other counties are in the Coastal Regional Commission. I served on that for 8 years. And this is the counties, you know, and the cities are represented in that regional commission. So one of the things that we can do, of course, is once we get things started on our area regionally, you know, with all the municipalities and all, then immediately bring them in, or have some of those people that's on that regional commission, when we bring in Charles Sisk and others, to let them, you know, see. And I think putting all this together, because both Helen and Howard have done a good job, and they have all of this knowledge. But bringing those people in, that it shows just how successful, and some of the things that they, problems they had with, they'll be mentioning that to us so that we don't run into those particular problems also ourselves, that we can overcome that, and just you know, setting up things that might not be good or could be good once we hear all of these people that come into our community. That's why I'm going to set up a workshop for us very quickly, because we don't want it to go down. Because one of the things that has been going on, as you all know, our director and some others have been trying to get us a tag to also acquire some government property, so that we can start on our own to get into some of this. Not anywhere close to where this is going, but at least get a start. And so we want everybody to know this, that your input and see how this thing is going and how we're going to proceed from here is really going to be good. Priscilla.
You hit upon another key area. You talked about the regional commission.
Yes.
We are already involving ourselves with the Coastal Region Commission. I sit on that board, and we have been having dialogue and some other things with Dr. Reese through the Coastal Region Commission, and I have been watching that very closely, and I think that we're in the right mode now of understanding our needs, and they are willing and they're ready to work from the Regional Coastal Commission point of view.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Just one last thing, and Mr. French and I attended the Garden City meeting when we were talking about the expansion, and we know that some of our municipal leaders are already sensitized to the tax credits or tax benefits to developing the senior and elderly housing that they were talking about, because they wanted, if they had transit access, they get more points in their application. So we know that some of our municipal leaders are already educated. It's just getting the word out to the rest.
Yes, sir.
Somebody over here want to ask them? Okay.
I've got a comment on your last statement where you were talking about, Chad and others are trying to get TAD set up. This comes right back to the root of our issue, that we have to be on the same page with, say, Chatham County or the city of Savannah so we can get these things started.
Exactly.
So when we're talking regional, we're also talking sub-regional. We have to get our own little area wanting to all go in the same direction.
Right.
And until we do that, it's going to be hard.
And we need to put the thing together, a strong position for it, Howard, because it's already, the city was kind of approached to it, not in a big way, to see about the TAD, and then it wasn't pushed along as far at that particular time. But now, with this situation, and that's going to be very, very important because of what we'll do to help it happen.
Yeah, and I want to go back to mention Charles Sisk again. Not that we think he's a messiah or the greatest thing since white bread, but he knows what he's done. And when he talks to you, I mean, we gave you a real, 900 condos. He'll go on and on. He'll say, yes, and we did this and we invested that. $30 million for the piece of property we sold for development rights for 20, blah, 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 and the tax
And
credit
this is how it works.
I mean, he will expand on what we've told you exponentially. We just sort of zip the surface of it, but he'll tell you how much the tax base is for this project they did in Bloomfield. He'll tell you that the city of Bloomfield made X amount of money in property taxes. And he'll tell you
They
this.
lived it.
And that's the neat part.
Question then again, when he comes, would it be advisable then to have our financial people from the municipalities
Well,
there?
I put together, the chairman of that, I put together a list. So I have a list of people we would invite, and I'll get that out to the board.
Okay, good.
And feel free to have editorial freedom.
Okay, I'll take it in.
And what will happen too, he'll give us, his recommendations and all, and then some board member might have some additional names to go with that too.
Very good.
Okay.
Next.
Good.
Very good.
Next, our executive director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's not much to report on the executive director's report. What it is, and it's the new form, and so I'll have Curtis stick around after the meeting to go over any depth and detail that you might have, but it breaks out all of our performance criteria. We begin to look at fare box recovery, complaints, our efficiency, our effectiveness, the whole host of things. The target numbers that you'll see there is we'll look at our performance based upon our targeted goals, and our targeted goals are derived from our peer agencies. So that information is already, the board already has that information as part of our Making Connections TDP, where our peer agencies were identified what's the productivity goals, what's the efficiency goals, safety goals, on-time performance in terms of where we're at with our peer agencies. And what it allows us to do is to be compared next to a standard as opposed to being compared necessarily to the previous month. Why was ridership up 200? Why was it down 500? Those type things. And the issue is, what should ridership be, and are we exceeding that? What should on-time performance be? Are we exceeding our standards? So that information is there, and then it begins to break down detailed information on weekday service, Saturday service, Sunday service, paratransit, Cat Freedom, water ferry, and gives us even more detail that will even look at more than you ever want to know. But the whole notion of paratransit riders, the type of trips we're taking, so whether they're employment-related trips, education, religious, recreation, medical, how many cancellations, same day, advance, so on and so forth, the certification process.
We will not be asking trip purpose.
We will not. We will be able to determine it from the data we acquire. So the point is, we're not asking information, we're able to do. So it's unlawful for us to say, well, what's this trip for? But if you're going to church on Sunday morning, that's an indication it's a religious trip, related trip. So that gives us an idea in terms of the breakdown of the types of trips we're making. So that information is there. Also, it's important to note the House and the Senate have both agreed to the 24th consecutive continuing resolution of surface transportation funding. 24 continuing resolutions. But it is of note that the Senate has passed a long-range surface transportation bill along bipartisan lines, and the House will be taking it up after recess. So it's the most significant change we've seen in federal funding in more than 6 years. So hopefully within the next few months we can have a bill that the President will consider signing. And that's it in terms of the Executive Director's report.
Okay, next. Oh, you want to ask a question?
Do we have any idea who our local legislators are on that in the House?
We do not, but we will get an indication next week. We're entertaining some local legislators next Monday, I believe, that'll be in town. So we'll have some meetings set up and get an idea of where we're at with that.
Okay, next. Unit updates, information only, and that's system development update. That was in your particular book that you have. And any questions on the system development update? Okay, the next one in that is the financial update. It covers it pretty good, in the book, because you know that both the System Development Committee and the Financial Committee, plus the other committee, the three committees, we meet on that. And so we go into some detail, the members that are on each one of those committees.
And one thing I did leave off, Mr. Chairman, is everyone sees the picture and the follow-up as we promised. This is the life jackets on the ferry services.
Thank you. I
Yes,
was the
ma'am.
one that asked for that.
So we got that.
Follow-up question on this. Usually when you're on any ferry type or ship for hire, you have to give a little spiel in the beginning telling you where the flight preservers are. Are we doing that in the Frost?
We do not, but I can look into what the Coast Guard requirements are.
Usually there's a requirement that you at least tell people where the life jackets are. If anybody falls off and you haven't given that particular spiel,
You have to go through.
Okay.
You jump in and get it.
Next is old business. How about any of you have any
How about
old
the
business?
financial?
Financial, well, I mentioned that.
Huh?
Anything
I know,
on financial? that anybody wants to?
I just have a quick question.
Okay.
In looking at some of the numbers, the areas that I'm concerned about is obviously the ridership. Is this a trend that is making anybody else nervous but me?
The reduction in ridership?
Yes.
Yeah, we are, we're looking at it strongly and seeing what we need to do, but yes.
But in fact, what you said just prior to that, in terms of the new form, will give us more real information,
Yes,
will it
ma'am.
not?
Yes, it will.
Thank you.
It will, but I mean, it's still the numbers are down and it concerns me.
And if you look at the agency revenue category, the fare revenue has remained fairly consistent year to year, and that number's going up. So the two together is what compromises our full ridership payment. So the general revenue plus the agency revenue is for our paying riders. So together, it looks a little less.
Okay.
All right. Any old business that you want to bring up?
I have something. I've already passed it to the executive director. In terms of where there are benches and not benches, where do we stand? Yesterday, while I was out campaigning, a lady over on Gwinnett Street stopped me and said, you know, we have to sit out here. There on Gwinnett Street, near Main Street, there is a bus stop. No bench, no canopy, no nothing. And I requested that, but I think we need to help you by identifying these spots where there aren't any.
That would be great. I've gotten a list from some board members today, and we'll certainly add them on the list. We are in the middle of procurement to acquire. I have some equipment on property that will continue to deploy, and I have procurement for more property, more equipment that's coming.
Listen, on this right now. Okay, old business again. Anybody with old business? Hold on just a minute, because I come down to these other items right here, then I'll get with you. All right, new business. Any new business?
No, sir.
All this information you brought to us was plenty good news.
Yes.
The two of y'all brought to us today, and then, now, is this something about what we've been discussing today?
I'd like to ask a question about the last meeting, last month, that was moved up a week. I don't question the reason. I believe you had a good reason. What I'm wondering is, what did you do to publicize this change for the general populace? Because I read about it the next morning in the Savannah Morning News at 6 o'clock when I looked at the newspaper, and I thought, oh wow, they had a meeting yesterday, and I'm just curious what happened.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, we put notice on social media, our website, and we also advertised it in the paper.
Prior to the meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
I think that's the point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Nothing, new business, so the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for attending, and of course, Chad, we thank you for your leadership.
Yes.
And all of the staff that work for Chatham Area Transit